People who can speak multiple languages, what language do you think in? I'm fluent in English, Vietnamese is my mother tongue, speak a little French. I mainly think in English since I moved to US, but my dreams come in Vietnamese still. French when I speak French, English when I speak English. Sometimes English when I speak French. I'm French though. That's weird. Sometimes it's faster to just think in English rather than French, it seems. I mean, the numbers alone. Why? I'd much rather think and say 4, 20, 10, 9 than just 99. So much easier in French. Wait, what? In French 99 is 99, 4, 20, 10, 9, as in 4 20s and 19 basically. Oh. Thanks for the information. I was so confused. Sure. Do note though that 99 is specifically the most complicated one and most are at least a little simpler. In French spoken in Switzerland, and Belgium I think, 70 septanti, 80 huitant 99. Makes it easy by using a base 10 all along. I am not sure why everyone else can't do it that way. First language, Danish second language, English third language, German it switches between Danish and English. Edit, rip my inbox edit too. Thank you kind stranger for my first silver. Does it mix like every other words or complete thoughts then the next is a different language? This is what I want to know. I can only speak for myself. I technically learned Korean first, 1 year old, because my parents didn't speak English at the time. After 33 years of living in the US, English has become my stronger language. The way language thought patterns occur for me depends on the context. If I'm reading something in Korean, I will likely think in Korean. When I watch an NFL highlight reel, I am thinking in English. Just swaps around depending on what's in front of me. Edit, what is this warm feeling of camaraderie with Reddit strangers who know what I'm even talking about? Y'all are breathtaking. It's interesting to see so many people with English as their second or third language and they only think in English. Interesting stuff. My first language, Romanian second, German third, English my brain, duck your mother language, let's go with English. Does it switch around or is it mostly just English? Not switch, not mostly. It's entirely English. That's crazy. Do you live in an English-speaking country? Not up, though I always think in English even though I live in India and mostly have to talk in Hindi. Yo man, that's whack. When I lived in India, I thought in Hindi, but after I moved it slowly transitioned to English. First is Tamil, can't tell if my second is Hindi or English. I dream in Hindi. I am fluent in both Spanish and English, but I only think in English lol. Is it your original language or is Spanish? Spanish is my first language but I don't really think in it much at all. Really? Interesting. It really is. I always think in English though I rarely ever use it in my daily conversations. Do you read primarily in English now? Could be associating your per inner voice with what you're actively reading day to day. This is my issue. First language was Spanish and I leaned English at the same time. I read mostly in English. I can switch to thinking in Spanish but it takes a few seconds. Sometimes when I speak Spanish I find myself translating it from English. I've been learning Japanese, since it's all pronounced like Spanish it had resulted in a lot of confusion for me. I read the English instructions as Spanish so that my Japanese pronunciation is accurate. However, the English info then makes no sense. This caused me a lot of frustration at the start but now helps. Even though I think in English, when I get very angry and lose my temper I switch to Spanish. I swear this is a weird thing specific to Japanese though. When I started learning Japanese something in my mind clicked over to French and just wouldn't switch back. So I would be looking for a word in Japanese, the French word would pop into my head, then I would have to reverse engineer the French word into my native English. Nightmare all around. That's what happens with a third language generally. You're used to translating your mother tongue into the next language, so when you go to translate into a third your brain says apple. Yeah, when you translate that it's manzana. But you actually need Japanese. I can think in them all. When I'm speaking a language, I think in that language even if I'm not 100% fluent. When I'm not speaking, I generally think in one of two languages I'm a native speaker in. I don't consciously control it. Sometimes I'm surrounded by one language and my brain randomly starts thinking in the other, but usually I'll think in the language I last used. I'm currently learning Swedish and it's gotten to the point where if I see an object the Swedish word for it pops into my head before the English word does. It's a good thing, I am trying to become fluent. I often practice a lot of Swedish to myself. I sometimes practice on my boyfriend too, he's actually Swedish, but I'm still too embarrassed to try and have a full-blown Swedish conversation with him. One day. I am a slow learner, but I'm in the long game and if I can become at least somewhat fluent in it, I'll be happy. One thing I can recommend is not being ashamed to speak. Just go with it, as long as you get your point across, it doesn't matter that you made some mistakes. Talk to your boyfriend in Swedish or find a local group where people practice Swedish so that you can practice with strangers whose opinions won't matter. Speaking the language speeds up learning it so much. And it makes the language more natural to you. Anyway, good luck. Yep, I'll try for sure. His parents are coming to visit in a couple of weeks and I'm looking forward to testing my Swedish on them too. Haha, luckily they do know some English, but it's nice to reciprocate. Thank you. People who are learning practicing a language are impressive no matter how well they speak it. Being embarrassed about it is understandable, but also unnecessary smile. Exactly. If you don't speak my language, then the effort that you put in trying is worth loads. Conversely, if I don't speak I'll try my best to communicate with you in that language anyway. When I get people who speak French and they find out I'm nearly fluent, they're always surprised, impressed, and most importantly just happy that I'm trying. It shows you care. While I was in seminary at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, there was a professor there who was very skilled in languages. For example, he was planning a trip to Turkey to study something, and someone asked him why he was reading a book in German, and he said the best book on some specific part of the Turkish language is written in German. There was a story that might have been urban legend, but one day he was walking across the quad and the school president stopped him and said, "Dr. Gentry, how are things going?" "I'm disappointed." "Why?" "Because I know 9 languages, but can only think in 5 of them." Edited to Ab School. Wow, so Erdogan himself asked him how things are going. Just casually friends with Turkey's president, no biggie. I started off thinking in English and then translating Spanish into English in my head. It took a lot of effort. The weirdest thing was when I started knowing words in Spanish that I didn't know in English. And then it was weird again when I started understanding Spanish words and sentences without having to consciously translate them into English first. It was like I would hear someone say something in Spanish and the understanding of the whole meaning of the sentence would pop into my head the same way as when someone said something in English. I learned English much earlier in life, so that's my default, but if I'm hearing Spanish or listening to Spanish music or media or even sometimes when I'm not, there are a lot of times when I think in Spanish, too. And honestly, I kind of prefer thinking in Spanish, but I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's that the music is better? Very interesting, thank you. My first language is Swedish, but I'm fluent in English and pretty much only speak English at home. I can also understand Danish and Norwegian and speak a bit of French. I mostly think and dream in English unless I've been reading a lot of Swedish or if I'm doing stuff where my vocabulary is lacking in English. I knew it, Scandinavians know a lot of languages. As a Swede, I wouldn't say I completely know Norwegian and Danish. But there is so much overlap between all 3 languages, so it's usually quite easy to understand them unless they have a very thick accent. Cough cough, Danish people cough cough. DanishYouTube.com. I don't even have to click on it and I know what it is. I'm still going to click though. Every time. You just ordered 1,000 liters of milk. My first language is Portuguese and I can speak a little bit of Spanish and I'm fluent in English. I'm not surrounded by people talking in English whatsoever, yet I mostly think in English. It makes no sense to me, but oh well. I've always wondered but never asked, are Portuguese and Spanish similar languages? Like, do they share word sounds, that sort of thing? Yes, we share some words and sounds and we can usually understand each other with just a little bit of effort even if we don't know how to properly say something, although some regions in Spain talk way too fast. With that in mind, I'd say it can be somewhat offensive when people just assume it's all the same because at the end of the day they are two different languages, so I'm glad you asked. One time at work I was asked to translate a document in Portuguese, and when I looked at them funny and asked why would they think I could do that, they deadpan answered, "You know Spanish and it's basically the same." I told them it's not, and I wasn't working in that firm as a translator to begin with. Never even been to any Portuguese speaking country and got offended AF on their behalf.